What is up guys, it's Cal, and in this video I'm going to be going over a complete overview of how hunters are looking in Shadowlands. I'll be going over new baseline abilities for each spec as well as their talents, and we'll talk about some of the pet changes that will be coming. If you're watching this video wanting to know which spec is better for DPS, or if hunters are better at DPS than other classes, well, sorry, but that's not what we'll be talking about. Just everything new and changed as far as hunters are concerned. So let's first start off with Beast Mastery hunters. So we will start off talking about the baseline abilities for Beast Mastery hunters. So I have them all in my bar here. We're going to talk about the changes to some of them, if any have been buffed, nerfed, if any have been removed, and some that have been added. There have been a few that have been added, which is nice. Anyways, so starting off here, Disengage has not been changed at all. Still does the same thing. It bounces you backwards, 20-second cooldown. The other effect you see there with increasing your movement speed is the post-haste talent, which we'll go over talents in a minute, but that has not been changed. Aspect of the Turtle, completely unchanged. 3-minute cooldown, deflects attacks, whatever. It still does the same thing. Misdirect, same deal, not changed. Feign Death, not changed at all, does literally the exact same thing it's always done since vanilla. Acceleration is not changed. Heals you for 30%, your pet for 100%. Aspect of the Cheetah did get a buff to it. So it still is a 3-minute cooldown, but it increases your movement speed by 90% for 5 seconds, which is up from 3 seconds. And then by 30% for another 9 seconds. That second part is the same, but the 90% part, it increases your movement speed by 90% for 5 seconds, up from 3. Eyes of the Beast is returning. So this was an ability that was removed from us it was like Legion, maybe it was Mists, I forgot. I don't think it was Mists, maybe it was Warlords, I forget, but it was removed from us for some time, and it was more of just like a fun ability. Like, it really had no major effect in like at least raid combat. It lets you take control of your pet, and you can move your pet around, and you can make your pet use abilities. See, I just used Master's Call on myself. So it's a really neat ability. So it's fun to use. Intimidation is not changed, the exact same pet utility. None of these are changed. Men pet, feed pet, Smash, Beast Lore, all do the same thing. Shadow Meld, not a hunter ability, but it's an idle ability that has not changed. Flare is not changed at all. Scare Beast is returning, and this is one that I'm actually extremely excited about that it's coming back. I think this was removed from us prior to Legion, I forget, but the big reason why Scare Beast is nice is for PvP combat, because you can use it on druids that are in cat form and bear form. But if you don't know what Scare Beast does, it fears a beast target for 20 seconds. So very useful against if you're facing a Beast Mastery hunter. Fear their pet, renders them pretty much useless. Or if you're facing a druid, you can fear, cat form druids, you can fear bear form druids, but not Moonkin. Moonkins are not considered beasts. Oh, and by the way, Scare Beast and Eyes of the Beast are both baseline for all hunters. So not just Beast Mastery gets that. So anyways, Eagle Eye, it's not changed at all. Only use outside, lets you see far distances. Freezing Trap and Tar Trap. Their effects have not been changed, but their cooldowns have been reduced from 30 seconds to 25 seconds. So it's a slight buff there. And call pet, whatever. Hunter's Mark is returning. So Hunter's Mark was something that, hunters have had since vanilla, and then at one point it was given to Marksmen as baseline ability, and then from that it was changed to a Marksman only talent. Now it is baseline to all hunters, but the thing about it is that just today, this is being recorded October 7th. I know it's being uploaded a little bit after October 7th, and it was nerfed to render it very freaking useless. Not completely useless, but not as good as it was before. So what Hunter's Mark currently does is it applies Hunter's Mark to the target, causing the target to always be seen and tracked by the hunter. Cool. And you can only use Hunter's Mark on one target. That's interesting and all, but it doesn't increase your damage done. It did early on in the beta, and as I just said earlier today, a new beta patch came out which took that 5% damage buff out. I don't know why it happened. This video is going to be uploaded prior to the pre-patch coming out, but hopefully they give us that 5% damage buff, because this would be completely useless to use on like boss targets and raids. Useful in PvP, very useful in PvP. But yeah, I really hope they give us that 5% damage buff back. Anyways, concussive shot. It has been buffed, actually. So does the same thing, slows the target 50%, 6 seconds, has 5-second cooldown. But Cobra Shot will actually increase the duration of concussive shot on the target by 3 seconds. So, you know, that's cool and all. Now if you concuss a target, especially in like PvP combat where it's very useful, it will be hard for it to fall off the target. Kill command is not changed at all. Its cooldown is still based off your haste. It still makes your pet do a massive hit to the target. Barb shot is also not changed at all. Generates 20 focus over 8 seconds, has 2 charges. Its cooldowns based off your haste, and yeah, it gives your pet frenzy. They get to stack up to 3 times. All that fun stuff. Cobra shot also not changed. Still reduces the cooldown of kill command by a second. Does physical damage. That is important to note because arcane shot is returning to all hunters. So before Marksmen just had a baseline, now beast mastery and also survival will have a baseline. But the thing about it is that it's I think it's worse than Cobra shot, and it costs more focus. So it literally costs 40 focus and deals, you know, some arcane damage to the target, whereas Cobra shot is 35 focus and deals twice as much physical damage to the target. So the only difference between them really, besides the fact that arcane shot costs more focus and does less damage, is that arcane shot is not physical, meaning arcane shot's damage is not reduced by the target's armor, whereas Cobra shot is, because Cobra shot does physical damage. But even with that, I still see Cobra shot being better. I still see it doing more damage, and also the extra thing tacked onto it where it reduces kill command's cooldown by a second every time you use it. That's something to play around with a bit more on when you would even use that, because there are no passives for Beast Mastery Hunters that even proc it to be free focus. So anyways, that's a thing. Counter shot, not changed. It's still our interrupt. Kill shot is returning, which is very nice. So it was taken out away from us before Legion, I think. it was taken out before Legion, and now it's returning. So hunters, and this is actually baseline to all hunters, kill shot is including survival, and we get an execute back. So it's our execute, 10 focus, 10-second cooldown, does a massive amount of damage only on targets that have 20% or less health. Multi-shot is getting a slight nerf to it, but the nerf to multi-shot is actually a nerf that affects all classes in the game. So multi-shot does not hit 100 enemies at a time anymore. It hits 5 targets, only up to 5 targets. And that's because Blizzard is making this conscious effort to not want people to AoE, 20 targets at a time. So just about every AoE ability in the game in Shadowlands is having a target cap to it. Multi-shot is one of them, which has a 5 target cap to it. But other than that, it still does, a little bit of damage, but it's mainly used to activate Beast Cleave. And then one big ability we're getting back is Tranquilizing Shot. So it does the same thing it did before, removes 1 enrage and 1 magic effect from the target, costs no focus, which is really nice, and a 10-second cooldown. So there's that. Now we're going to go over pet changes along with Beast Mastery Hunters, but for pets that had the Tranquilizing Shot ability, like moths for example and spirit beasts, their Tranquilizing Shot ability, whatever, is being replaced by, I had it on my bars, it's not there anymore, let's grab it. It's ability called Serenity Dust. Serenity Dust for moths. It's called Spirit Pulse for spirit beasts, and this is a pet personal dispel. So it has a 10-second cooldown, and it removes any disease, magic, or poison effect from the pet only. So does not do that to the hunter. It only does it to the pet. So it's pretty useful in PvP content and like soloing content if you're having your pet tank something. So Trank Shot is coming back. That's awesome. Camouflage is, well, actually Camouflage is a talent, but we'll go over talent in a minute. Camouflage is, regardless, not being changed at all. Bestial Wrath is getting a buff to it. Right there. I guess it's a slight buff. Still has the same cooldown, 1.5 minutes. But when you use Bestial Wrath, it almost acts as like a kill command as well. where it will instantly have your pets deal damage to the target. Other than that, it does the same thing. It increases your damage and your pet's damage by 25% for 15 seconds, and Bestial Wrath's cooldowns reduced by 12 seconds every time you cast Barb Shot. And Aspect of the Wild is not changed at all. 2-minute cooldown gives you and your pet 5 focus, increases your crit by 10% for 20 seconds. That's it for the core hunter abilities. None of them have been removed. No core hunter abilities have been removed. There have only been some that have been added and some that have been buffed, which is very nice. So anyways, let's move on to passive abilities in the spellbook, which has like two changes to it, I believe. First off, looking at Beast Cleave, this has had the slight nerf to it that all AoEs in the game are getting, where your pet will only, after you cast multi-shot, your pet will only cleave 5 targets around it. Still does the same amount of damage, 75% of the pet's damage, for 4 seconds. And Exotic Beast, not changed. Kindred Spirits, not changed. Still increases your focus by 20. Your Master is not changed. Still increases your pet's damage. Pack Tactics is new. So this increases your passive focus regeneration by 100%. So that is very nice. And Wild Call is not changed. Your auto crit shots have 20% chance to reset the cooldown of Barb Shot. So that's all good and dandy. Now let's move on to the talents. Talents right here. So the first tier of talent has not been changed at all. Killer Instinct still does the same thing. Buffs kill command on targets below 35% health. Animal Companion does the same thing. Allows you to have a second pet out, which does kill command when you use kill command. And then Dire Beast, not changed at all. 20-second cooldown. Summons a beast that increases your haste for 8 seconds. Second tier. Scent of Blood is the only thing that has a change to it. In fact, it's completely changed. It used to make Barb Shot give 8 additional focus. Now, when you activate Bestial Wrath, it grants 2 charges of Barb Shot, which I think is more useful than what it did before, because the main way to get top DPS as a Beastmaster Hunter is keeping up those Barb Shot stacks, because Barb Shot already gives plenty of focus. It gives 20. 28 isn't a huge change. It's obviously better than 20, but it's not a huge change. But Bestial Wrath giving you 2 charges of Barb Shot is, I think, very useful, and will make it much more useful on this tier, because before... Oh, by the way, all of my talents here that I've picked are no reason. I've just been testing them. This doesn't mean that these are the best talents to pick. I just want that to be clear. So most hunters before either picked One with the Pack or Chimera Shot. I do think this will make Scent of Blood more useful. One with the Pack is not changed, and Chimera Shot's not changed. It still deals damage to 2 targets and generates 10 focus. Third tier is the tier that's the same for all hunter specs. It's not changed at all. Trailblazer increases your movement speed when you're not attacked. Natural Mending reduces cooldown of acceleration every 30 focus you spend, and Camouflage is the 1-minute cooldown, makes you turn invisible, heals you for 2% of your health every second. Like I just said, this tier is not changed at all. The next tier, Venomous Bite, which was here, was replaced by Spitting Cobra, which Spitting Cobra was on the last tier. It is now moved up here, and it's completely changed. So this is now a passive. When Bestial Wrath ends, summons a Spitting Cobra to aid you in combat for 15 seconds. Each Cobra shot used during Bestial Wrath increases the damage the Spitting Cobra deals by 10%. So I do think that's better than the original iteration of Spitting Cobra, but there is that. And Thrill the Hunt and Murder of Crows are not changed. So Thrill the Hunt still increases your crit by 3% for 8 seconds, stacking up to 3 times every time you Barb Shot, and Murder of Crows is still Murder of Crows. The next tier, level 40 tier, which, by the way, if you didn't know, this is how the levels are. It's 15, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50 for talents. I do think that they should add a new I do think they should just give us another talent row for level 10 or for level 20. I think it would make more sense and it'd be more fun because it's another ability to have. Anyways, enough being sidetracked. This tier is the same for all specs. It is not changed at all. Actually, this tier is slightly changed for Marksmen Hunters, but this tier is not changed at all for Beast Mastery. So Born to be Wild decreases cooldown of Cheetah, Turtle by 20%. Post Haste gives you speed boost whenever you disengage. Binding Shot puts a Binding Shot on the ground. Roots targets if they move away from it. like I said, it is not changed at all. The level 45 tier, second to last tier, had a couple changes to it. So Stomp is not changed. When you cast Barb Shot, your pet deals AoE damage around it. This AoE damage is not capped. So AoE damages kind of like that are not capped. But one AoE ability that is capped is Barrage. So it is getting the AoE cap treatment, but instead of 5 targets, this caps at 8 targets. So there's that. Otherwise, it's relatively unchanged. Still does the same thing. It just can only hit up to 8 targets. And Stampede is getting a slight buff to it. So its cooldown is being reduced from 3 minutes to 2 minutes, which is nice because Stampede is the least used ability on this tier. I like Stampede a lot more back when it was a single target ability, when it, called all the pets from your, 5 pet slots and attacked the target. I kind of wish they did go back to that version of Stampede, but anyways, this Stampede was buffed slightly with the reduced cooldown. And then the final tier, first 2 things are not changed. So Aspect of the Beast still increases your pet's damage by 30%, and Predator's Thirst, Endurance Training, and Pathfinding are increased by 50%, so that's not changed. Killer Cobra is also not changed while Bestial Wrath is active. Cobra Shot resets the cooldown on kill command. So there's that. Now Bloodshed is completely new. This is where Spinning Cobra was. Spinning Cobra moved up to the 35 tier. It's replaced by Bloodshed, which is completely new. So it is a 1 minute cooldown ability. Commands your pet to tear into your target, causing your target to bleed for an amount over 18 seconds. And it also increases all damage that your pet does to the target by 15% for 18 seconds. So I do think that this will compare well with Aspect of the Beast and Killer Cobra, because Spinning Cobra, which was here, was the least used on this tier. Beastmaster Hunters seem to either pick Aspect of the Beast or Killer Cobra, but Bloodshed is nice to kind of shake things up. Beastmaster Hunter changes, they were all around buffs. The only nerfs were things that affect all classes, which were the AoE caps. But yeah, Beastmaster Hunters look like they're in a good spot in Shadowlands. And now, as far as pet changes, not much has changed. Pets have the same specs: Ferocity, Tenacity, Cunning. Every pet has one of those specs. You cannot change them. I did mention the Spirit Pulse to Trank Shot thing because we're getting Trank Shot. So Serenity does Spirit Pulse. They do their whatever ability. Cloud Serpents and Undead pets will be tameable. I actually made a video on all of this, so I will recommend you check that out if you want to know the Hunter pet changes. It'll be linked at the end of the video. But yeah, there have been no major changes to Hunter pets. So let's move on to Marksman Hunters. Now, talking about Marksman, let's go over the baseline abilities as before. Disengage unchanged, Turtle unchanged, Misdirect unchanged, Feign Death unchanged, Exhilaration unchanged. Aspect of the Cheetah has the same change to it that all Hunter specs are getting, where the 90% movement speed is lasting for 5 seconds, up from 3. So there's a buff there. As I said before, Trank Shot is baseline to all Hunters now. Marksman gets Trank Shot, removes 1 Enrage and Magic Effect from the target, which is awesome. So you don't need Moths anymore, or Rays, or whatever to do your Trank Shot for you. Pet Utility is the exact same, although you typically won't have a pet out because Lone Wolf for Marksman Hunters is still there. Scare Beast and Eyes of the Beast are baseline for all Hunters. As I mentioned before, do the same thing as Beast Mastery. Scare Beast is nice because you can, scare druids and fear beasts. It's fun. And then Eyes of the Beast, you can make your pets move around and control them and act like you're a fox or something. Anyways, moving on. Eagle Eye not changed. Freezing Trap and Tar Trap got the same buff treatment that Beastmastery did, where their cooldown is 25 seconds down from 30. So there's a buff there. Hunter's Mark is becoming baseline. So it was a Marksman talent, is now baseline, and it's actually nerfed as a baseline talent, unless Blizzard decides to, get some sense and rebuff it like it was for the entire alpha and most of the beta, which they decided to take that buff away sometime early this week. But now it doesn't give you 5% damage increase on the target. It just makes it so the target can't stealth. So there's that. Concussive shot is getting a buff similar to how Beastmaster got a buff, where if you use steady shot on a concussed target, it's a concussed shot lasts for 3 seconds longer. It just increases by 3 seconds each time, which is nice, especially for like PvP. Aim shot did have its focus increased by 5, so it's 35 focus up from 30. So a slight nerf there. Otherwise, it is the same. Still, it's two charges and all of that. Rapid fire now shoots 7 shots down from 10, and it's over a shorter period of time, 1.8 seconds down from 2.5 seconds. So, needless to say, rapid fire will generate you less focus. It'll generate you 7 focus down from 10. Arcane shot, it had its focus increased by 5 as well. So it was 15 focus, and now it's 20. So there is a slight nerf there. Steady shot does the same thing, generates 10 focus. Counter shot, still our interrupt, does the same thing. Multi-shot, just like all AoEs in the game that I've talked about, is getting the slight nerf to it, where it has a target cap of 5 targets instead of unlimited targets. Kill shot is returning to all hunters, which is amazing. It it is an execute, so we do get an execute again. And bursting shot is not changed at all. True shot aura, or true shot, sorry, I was remembering the classic version of it. True shot is not changed at all. So it's 2-minute cooldown, reduces cooldown of aim shot and rapid fire by 60%, and causes aim shot to cast 50% faster for 15 seconds. So, not changed at all. Now, binding shot is actually becoming baseline, which is nice. So it's the talent. It used to be a talent. That talent is being replaced by a different talent, which I will get to in a minute, which actually buffs Binding Shot. So Binding Shot does the same thing where it roots targets if they move away from it. It is becoming baseline, which is awesome. Now let's take a look at the spell book. Not the talents yet. The spell book for passive abilities changed. Your mastery is unchanged, increases your range and your damage. Precise shots does not change. Aim shot causes your next 1 to 2 arcane shots or multi-shots to deal 75% more damage. Trick shots is actually not changed. The only thing changed about it is its portrait. I can't even tell what that is. It's like a sword slashing through the wind. I don't know, but its portrait has changed. Otherwise, it does the exact same thing. Now let's take a look at talents. So Marksmen have had quite a bit of talents changed. Master Marksman is completely changed. So your range, special attacks, critical strikes cause the target to bleed for an additional 15% of the damage dealt over 6 seconds. Whenever you crit, it's like an extra dot. Serpent Sting, its dot now lasts 18 seconds, up from 12 seconds, so you don't have to use it as much, but I'm guessing each of its ticks do less damage now because it's over a longer period of time. Murder of Crows, completely unchanged. Careful Aim did have a slight change to it, so aim shot deals 50% bonus damage to targets who are above 70% health. Before, this was just targets above 80% and below 20%. I assume now that we have the execute kill shot, they decided to change Careful Aim to work on targets that have above 70% health. Volley was actually moved to the last tier and was actually changed, but we will get to that in a minute. And it was replaced by Barrage, which Barrage did get the hit target cap treatment, where it can only hit up to 8 targets. It cannot hit like an infinite amount of targets. Same thing with Explosive Shot. Well, except Explosive Shot's AoE hit cap is 6 targets. So it's not 5, it's not 8, it is 6. So there's that. Third tier is not changed. It's actually not changed for any of the Hunter Specs, Trailblazer, Natural Minion Camouflage. Do the exact same things. Tier level 35, Steady Focus, did have a change to it. So using Steady Shot twice in a row increases your haste by 7% for 15 seconds. In my opinion, that's actually a buff to what it was before. So did get changed a bit. Streamline has also been changed. Rapid Fire's damage is increased by 15%, and Rapid Fire also causes your next aim shot to cast 30% faster. In my opinion, this is also a buff as opposed to what it was before. If you have different opinions on that, feel free to let me know in the comments below. That's just what I think. And Marksman Hunters are able to use Chimera Shot. So this is where Hunter's Mark was, and Hunter's Mark is being baseline. That has been replaced by Chimera Shot. and it does the same thing where it hits 2 targets. Except, well, actually it is slightly different. So this actually replaces Arcane Shot. This version of Chimera Shot replaces Arcane Shot, and it costs focus. So it does not generate you 10 focus, it in fact costs 20 focus. So there is that. Now for this tier, Born to be Wild is not changed at all. Reduces Turtle and Cheetah by 20%. Post haste is not changed. Gives you speed boost whenever he disengage. Binding Shackles was added here because this is where Binding Shot was, since Binding Shot is being baseline. Binding Shackles makes it so targets that have been rooted by Binding Shot deal 20% less damage to you. Not to everyone, just to you, for 8 seconds after the root effect ends. And the next tier, second to last, Lethal Shots did get a buff to it, so Arcane Shot and Multi-Shot have a 30% chance to reduce the cooldown of Rapid Fire by 5 seconds. This was 20%, so buffed from 20% to 30%, that is nice. Deadeye is new, so Barrage was here, now it's being replaced by Deadeye. What Deadeye does is it's a passive. Kill Shot has 2 charges and causes Aim Shot to recharge 60% faster for 3 seconds. That seems really neat, actually. And then Double Tap is unchanged, 1 minute cooldown, and yeah, it still does the same thing as before. For the final tier, Calling Shots has not been changed. Casting Arcane Shot or Multi-Shot reduces True Shot by 2.5 seconds. Lock and Load did get a buff to it, so your range auto attacks have an 8%, was a 5%, now it's an 8%, chance to trigger Lock and Load, causing your next aim shot to cost no focus and be instant. And then Volley was actually changed. In my opinion, it's actually a buff, but what the new Volley does is it's a 45-second cooldown. It rains volley of arrows down over 6 seconds, dealing physical damage to enemies in the area. So that's kind of like how Volley did, you know, like back in Classic, essentially. But what it also does is you gain the effects of Trick Shots for as long as Volley is active. So let's go ahead and use it here. Nice. It lasts for 6 seconds. So there's that. Before, what Volley did was it was like a passive that you like activated. Anyways, that's it for Marksman Hunters. So it had a lot more changes than Beast Mastery. I think out of all of them, Beast Mastery had the least amount of changes and Marksman had the most amount of changes. So some buffs, some nerfs, but there's that. Now let's go to Survival, which had some mixed changes. So taking a look at Survival's baseline abilities, Disengage and Aspect of the Turtle along with Misdirect, Feign Death, Exhilaration are all unchanged, like I've mentioned 2 times already. Aspect of the Cheetah is still getting the same buff that both Beast Mastery and Marksman are getting. Increases their movement speed by 90% for 5 seconds. That is up from 3 seconds. Trank Shot. So Survival is getting Trank Shot, even though we still wield melee weapons. We are getting Trank Shot. It dispels enrage and magic effects, which is always useful. So you don't need to have those whatever rays, moths, whatever non-exotic pets had the Trank Shot ability. Intimidation not changed at all. Pet utility is obviously not changed. Flare is not changed. Aspect of the Beast and Scare Beast are coming back, so we can fear beasts, including druids, and Eyes of the Beast lets us take control of our pet, which is always just a fun ability. And so there's that. Traps are getting the same buff that the other 2 specs, where their cooldowns being reduced by 5 seconds. So they have 25-second cooldown, which is down from 30 seconds. And Eagle Eye is unchanged. Hunter's Mark is baseline now, but as I've mentioned previously 2 times, they took out the 5% damage buff. Wing Clip is getting a buff. It costs 20 focus, down from 30 focus. Otherwise, it still does the same thing. Reduces movement speed by the target by 50% for 15 seconds. Harpoon is unchanged. 20-second cooldown. Pulls you to the target. Serpent Sting. It had a slight change to it. So it still is a dot that you fire on the target. But its dot is a base of is baseline 12 seconds now. And that is not affected by haste. So currently on live, that 12 seconds fluctuates based on how much haste you have. But it no longer fluctuates in Shadowlands. It is just a base of 12 seconds. Rapid Strike is unchanged. It's a basic ability. Does physical damage. Survival Hunters are getting Arcane Shot and Steady Shot. So does arcane damage. Steady shot doesn't give you focus. It does do physical damage. It can be cast while moving, but they both require a ranged weapon. So I guess survival hunters, make sure you carry a ranged weapon in case you want to be ranged all of a sudden in the middle of a fight. You can swap between them. See how like half the abilities on my bar swap? So you want to be a ranged survival hunter now again? Go for it. Otherwise, yeah. So there's that. Anyways, Wildfire Bomb is unchanged. The reason it has 2 charges to it is just because of a talent. It does not baseline have 2 charges. Kill Command is unchanged. Its cooldown's based off your haste, and deals damage, generates focus for survival, and has a 25% chance to immediately reset its cooldown when used. Muzzle, unchanged, still survival hunters interrupt. Carve is getting the same nerf that all AoE abilities are getting, where they have hit caps. Carve's hit cap is 5 targets. Kill Shot. So survival hunters are getting Kill Shot, which is nice. It is an execute. Now, Kill Shot does require a melee weapon for survival, so keep that in mind. If you ever want to go range as survival for whatever reason, you will not be able to use Kill Shot. As you see there, it requires a 2-handed melee weapon. Coordinated Assault is not getting changed at all. 2-minute cooldown, and yeah, increases damage you and your pet deal by 20%, and yada 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 is not changed. Aspect of the Eagle is also not changed. 1.5 minute cooldown lets you use Raptor Strike from 40 yards away. So there's that. Passive abilities in the spellbook. Survival hunters only have 1 passive ability. It's not changed. It is their mastery. Does the exact same thing. Increases you and your pet's damage, and you heal up for every 5 seconds when your pet's out. And then as far as talents, for the most part, are unchanged, but we will still go over them. These talents picked do not mean anything. I just randomly selected talents for testing. First tier, not changed. Viper's Venom, Terms of Engagement, Alpha Predator. If you don't remember what they do, you can pause the video. They are unchanged. Second tier, Guerrilla Tactics is not changed. It gives Wildfire Bomb 2 charges and increases its damage. Hydra's Bite did get a buff to it. Serpenting fires arrows at 2 additional enemies near your target, and its damage over time is increased by 20%. That is up from 10%. So there's that. And then Butchery, like I've said plenty of times before, is getting the AoE hit cap treatment at 5 targets. So it can only hit up to 5 targets. Trailblazer, Natural Mini Camouflage, not changed. Next tier is not changed either. Bloodseeker, Steel Trap, Murder of Crows. If you want to know what they do, feel free to pause the video. It's not changed. I think we all know what Born to be Wild, Post Haste, and Binding Shot do. They are not changed at all. The second to last tier, Tip of the Spear did get a buff. So Kill Command increases the damage of your next Raptor Strike by 25%, stacking up to 3 times. On live, that is 20%. Mongoose Bite is not changed at all. Still does the same thing, replaces Raptor Strike 30 focus, deals damage to the target, and then gives you a stacking 15% damage Mongoose Bite buff, which stacks up to 5 times. So Mongoose Bite not changed. Flanking Strikes did get a buff. So the only buff to it is it has a 30-second cooldown, down from 40 seconds. Otherwise it does the same thing, and it generates the same focus and all that. So there's that. I'm glad that they did buff Tip of the Spear and Flanking Strike versus nerfing Mongoose Bite, because I know most survival hunters pick Mongoose Bite. So I'm glad they did that. The final tier is for the most part not changed. Birds of Prey is not changed. Wildfire Infusion is not changed. They both did the same thing. Chakrams was buffed to now cost 15 focus, down from 30. So its focus was halved. And so there's that, which is nice because I know most survival hunters either pick Wildfire Infusion or Birds of Prey. But yeah, Chakram to get a buff to its focus. So there's that. As I said, survival hunters, not a whole lot of changes, similar to Beast Mastery. Both less than Marksmen, that's for sure. So there's that. But what would a Shadowlands class overview be like without showing off the Covenant abilities? So let's move on to that. So every covenant has a signature ability and a class specific ability. So the signature ability is all defensives, and everyone who picks this covenant, doesn't matter what class you are, will have this ability. And like I just said, they're I think for the well, yeah, they're all pretty much like defensive type abilities. So the Bastion, starting off with the Bastion, the Kyrian signature ability is Summon a Steward. 5-minute cooldown. Calls your steward to bring you a Phial of Serenity that can be consumed to restore 20% health and remove all curses, diseases, poison, and bleed effects. Your steward additionally offers access to a selection of useful amenities for 4 minutes. Let's call the steward, and there he is. He gave me 3 Vials of Serenity, which give me 20% health. Let's talk to him. I need a favor. 1 hour cooldown. I have a special request. 4 hour cooldown. Tell one of my friends how great they are. 1 day cooldown. Can you play me a song? Amazing. Okay, let's do the 1 day cooldown. Give compliment. Have your steward give a compliment to a friend. Give a compliment to yourself, buddy. You deserve it. And, okay, so the class specific ability. Now this is the same no matter what your spec is, but only hunters get this ability. So it's a resonating arrow, 1 minute cooldown. So it puts out this sort of AoE circle, and any enemy in this AoE circle takes a small amount of arcane damage, but this lasts for 10 seconds. But all line of sight is ignored from you while they're in this that circle, and your crit strike chance is increased by 30% against them. Now, as you see the bottom part there, leaving the area of echoing animal will still allow the hunter to ignore line of sight towards the enemy for 4 seconds, so you don't have to stay in that area for the entire time for the line of sight thing. Anyways, that's a pretty interesting ability. I see it very useful in PvP scenarios, but the extra 30% crit chance is definitely beneficial, which makes it viable in PvE scenarios. Now for the Necrolords. Their signature ability is called Fleshcraft. 2 minute cooldown. You form a shield of flesh and bone over 4 seconds that absorbs damage equal to 20% of your max health for 2 minutes. Channeling near a corpse claims their essence to grow the shield up to 50% of the maximum health. This is most effective against powerful enemies, so I guess like elites and such. So if we use it here, you do have to channel it, and as soon as you move, like I just did, it does cancel it. So the longer you channel, the more damage it prevents, and it stays on you for 2 minutes. So it's a pretty interesting ability. And then the next one is, or the class ability for hunters, is Death Chakram. 45-second cooldown. Throws a deadly chakram at your current target that will rapidly deal 260 or some amount of shadow damage 7 times, bouncing to other targets if they are nearby. And then each time it bounces, it increases its damage by 15% and generates 3 focus. So let's find some groups of enemies to use it on. I think this is a good area. There's a bunch of bloods around here. Let me see if I can pick them all up, and then I'll death shock them as much as I can. This should be enough. I'm going to target the higher health one. Death chakram. Nice. That's the damage it did. So there's that. Let me call out a pet so I can actually kill these things. Now for the Night Fae. Their signature ability is one that a lot of people are talking about because it's one that a lot of people might end up leveling with, and that is Soul Shape. 1.5 minute cooldown. You turn into a Vulpin, teleporting 15 yards forward and increasing your movement speed by 50%. You may reactivate Soul Shape every few seconds to teleport again, and it lasts 12 seconds or indefinitely if you're in a rested area. So if we use it here, it lasts 12 seconds up there. Let's use it. You just can blink forward. It's nice. This thing's on a 4-second cooldown, so we can just keep blinking around. And then, yeah, it's on a 1.5 minute cooldown. So there's that, and it can be used in combat. I mean, if it couldn't be used in combat, then it would be fairly useless because you could just mount. So the Hunter ability is Wild Spirits. This is a 2-minute cooldown. It does, if you notice, they all pretty much do the same damage. They just have different effects to them. So this will put a Hunter's Mark in this radius. Hunter's Mark on everything in that radius, which doesn't mean a whole lot now, because of the nerf to Hunter's Mark, but also while the wild spirits are active, each damaging ability that you or your pet use against a target in the area will strike up to 5. So it's very good for AoE. So let's go and just put it here. All these targets have Hunter's Mark on them, and as you see, it's like, I don't know what my pet's doing, but yeah, it's like shooting down beams of light, arcane damage on all the enemies. So it's very good. I'd say very good for AoE, but as far as single target bosses goes, it's not the best. And then finally we have the Venthyr Covenant. So their signature ability that everyone has is Dwarf Shadows. It's like a teleport, 35 yards, 1 minute cooldown. This one, not that great. I'm not gonna lie, it's probably my least favorite signature ability. It's kind of the least useful, if I might add. But contrary to its signature ability, its class ability is very good for hunters. So it's Flayed Shot, 30-second cooldown, fires a shot at your enemy, causing them to bleed for 2,611 shadow damage over 20 seconds. Each time Flayed Shot deals damage, you have a 15% chance to gain Flayer's Mark, which allows you to use Kill Shot on the target regardless of their health. So if they have more than 20% health, you can still use Kill Shot, and it's free. It won't cost any focus. So we're going to use a Flayed Shot on that guy. And I'm just going to auto shot him because I don't really want to kill him. And we're going to see if... Come on, I can use a Kill Shot. Come on. There we go. Took him out. And Kill Shot does massive damage. So I'm going to be honest. I'm having trouble on which Covenant I'm going to pick. It will probably be Venthyr, just because Flayed Shot is actually really good. If not Venthyr, the other good one for boss damage at least is probably Kyrian, just because of the 30% crit increase. Not the line of sight thing. That's good for PvP, but not so much for anything else. Anyways, guys, those are all the Covenant abilities. I'm still figuring out which I'm going to pick, but we do have time. And that's it for Hunter changes that are coming in Shadowlands. A lot of good changes in my opinion. I can't say much negatively with how they're looking, but you guys can let me know in the comments below how you see Hunters looking, or your respective class. But that's it for the video, so feel free to leave a like on it, sub to the channel for more videos like this, and I will see you guys in the next video.